Who would we be? Who would we be if we were never kidnapped from the bosom of the motherland? Who would we be if we were never battered and bruised as an African living in America? I've been thinking about this. I woke up with it on my mind. Who would I be? What would it feel like? What would it feel like to not live under the white gaze? To just walk through the world the way our white counterparts get to know that when we enter a store, people are looking to help us and support us in whatever it is that we need. That when we go to college or when we enter a school system and the teachers do not look like us, that would not dictate the type of education or the type of support that we get. We would never hear things like, oh, you're not smart enough to succeed, or you should just go get a janitor job. It doesn't matter if you don't get good grades, but we would be shepherded gently and gingerly through our educational system, being given all that we need, being given all the jump starts that we need from everybody that we encounter along the way, from childhood. Oh, our mothers, our Black mothers would die less giving birth in hospitals. Our Black mothers would not be encouraged to abort their babies at the first sign of an issue, particularly when the baby is a Black boy, as what happened with my grandson. Who would we be if we were never stripped from the motherland and battered and bruised? What would it feel like to graduate from college, earn a good job, earn a job, earn a good job, Lord help me, get a good job, walk into an interview and simply be allowed to be our beautiful, brilliant, innovative, creative selves, from the way we look from the way we adorn our bodies, meaning in clothes and jewelry, to how we speak, what our thought processes are, what our intuitive nature is, as opposed to having to walk into uh, an interview and having to size the room up very quickly, something that Africans living in America you know, have have had to do and learn, whether we're cognizant of it or not, because we're constantly under the white gaze. So it's something that we do. You size the room up very quickly, and you know automatically that you have to do your best to try to outbeat the next person, even if you have more experience than the others, the other people interviewing that may not look like you. Even if you have more experience, more degrees, you have to present yourself in a do that dance, and that have that delicate balance of having confidence, showing what you know, but not intimidating anybody that doesn't look like you, not being overly confident, not being overly cocky, not being perceived, excuse me, as being overly cocky, overly confident. because you know that you live in a world where Black people are inferior and white is superior. And the manifestation of that is marginalization. You know that you live in a world where white is superior, Black is inferior, and the manifestation of that is perpetual marginalization. You know that you live in a world where people that don't look like you surround themselves with people that look like themselves. They worship with people that look like themselves. So their only education is the television, the movies and media, and the news, more media. So their only education about Black people is the media. And the media, the foundation and the history of the media is entrenched with the concept that white is superior and Black is inferior. The first entertainment in media was a white man in blackface making fun of slaves. So the media began with the history of media began with white people using Black people for entertainment, using the oppression of Black people, the lack of education of Black people for entertainment, and then it graduated to making us look like fools, to making us look like thugs. And that foundation, as in everything, that foundation is evident and perpetuates itself in the fight that Africans in media have today in terms of fighting for roles or writing roles that rights the wrong of the whole concept and the lie that white is inferior, that white is superior and Black is inferior. So who would we be if we were never stripped from Africa? We would not, what would it feel like? It would feel like peace. Of course, as humans, we're told that we're not supposed to be perfect. So we're not perfect human beings, right? So um it's not to say that there wouldn't be strife, but we would work things out within ourselves. We wouldn't have to, again, we would feel relaxed. The same way Brother Hollop of the BAIO felt when he went to Rwanda. And when he left, he said he felt homesick. Why? Because it felt like peace to be amongst Africans, to ride, to be flown by in a plane with people that look like you. For those that have traveled airlines, where the people the stewardess, the pilots look like you. You land in a place where you are the majority. Your beautiful chocolate skin and all the different hues are the majority. It would feel like peace because we wouldn't be constantly demeaned. Everywhere you turn, you're demeaned. When you walk into a room, when you walk into a restaurant or establishment, you're greeted with love. Because as Africans, we are really loving and warm people. You know, when you visit the continent, you're reminded of that. that we're warm and loving people by nature. Um, Two stories in terms of being marginalized and people, not just people of color that non-Africans they believe the hype about us um Africans being thieves and uneducated and inferior. Um so one day I walked into a store and I was looking for rings. And this woman, it was a fabric store. So I'm looking at the fabric store and keep seeing the shiny ring across, touching the fabrics. And, we're in a nice neighborhood. I've never been one to bum it out when I leave my house. So I'm dressed well. And, but I'm a black face, I'm a black woman rather. And, I glance at her ring and I'm about to compliment her. The woman is Middle Eastern, an older woman, and I'm about to compliment her on her ring, but I did not get a chance to because she abruptly put her whole hand in her whole purse to hide the ring from me. It was painfully obvious. And then she moved from me and spoke to someone in her language about me. I remember my fella and I went to Italy, and we walked into a store, and the woman there was a woman, another woman. Now she may have been Italian. Her complexion looked like my mom, though. She looked like my mother, a light-skinned black woman. And immediately when I walked in the store as the only black person in the store, she I was trying to get in line and she had a visceral reaction to my presence. It was painfully obvious. I can't remember what she did, but she did something. And I had a visceral reaction to that shit too. I had a visceral reaction to that shit. My fella had to, you know, he calmed me down, but I had a visceral reaction to that. Anyways, who would we oh, another story. My fellow goes to China a little over a decade ago. He's the only black person in the group, in the tour, and there's a little boy, and he's circling my fella, literally going around and around him. And finally he says in his language the um to I guess his father, "Where's his tail?" Because he was told that black people have tails. So, who would we be? And I don't know if we realize that we live with pain. We literally live with pain. It's not natural for when a baby is born into this world, a baby is born when a black baby is born, an African baby is born into this world, leaving the warmth of his or her mother's womb. That black baby comes with the expectation and the innate desire to be loved and to love. It is not natural for us to have all these rejections just for who we are, just for what we look like, for the color of our skin. It is not natural to live like this. So every time we get rejected as we grow up. Now, the beautiful thing about children is they live only in the present. They're not concerned about yesterday, they're not concerned about tomorrow. So when you hurt them, they cry and they move on. But as we get older and as we become cognizant of the world around us and our place in it, and we desire to have a place in the world, as we develop these desires, which is natural, it's a part of our domestication as human beings, and we start to realize or be educated by our families about what the positioning is in this family as Africans living in America, we immediately start to feel the pain of rejection and the pain of the atrocities that we witness that happens to the members of our Black community, the unfair killings that make no sense, the policing of our Black bodies by an institution that was created to keep Black people in check, the police department, created to keep Black people in check. So we live with this pain. We live with it, but yet we laugh because that's how powerful we are. We laugh, we continue to forge ahead and make a life for ourselves. But who would we be if we were never stripped? We never had, was never a part of that transatlantic slave trade. What would it feel like? It would feel like peace. We wouldn't have to live with the fear of police brutality on our Black sons. And we can't forget our daughters. We cannot forget the Sandra Blands of the world. But we know that our Black sons have always been under attack. We would not live with that fear. Black women die disproportionately from heart attacks. Perhaps this would not be our sad truth. Perhaps we wouldn't be dealing with food insecurities in our Black neighborhoods. Horrible, horrible processed foods placed in our neighborhoods. Not healthy fruits and vegetables and herbs to the fruits that cleanse the body and herbs and greens that heal the body, but processed foods. Perhaps our women again wouldn't be dying from heart failure because we're doing it for ourselves because our Black family is so torn apart. Perhaps we would be in Africa, in our villages, with our families, however we define our families, working things out amongst ourselves. Perhaps our families would be intact. We would continue to evolve, bringing our creativity and our innovativeness to modern days, but we would be dealing with only each other. We would be loving and supporting each other and not having to deal with the evils of this world as an African living in America. Not having to deal with the history of redlining, refusing us loans and insurance that we qualify for, just based on the color of our skin and the desire to keep us oppressed. We wouldn't be dealing with that. Again, it would feel like peace. So, if you're interested in pursuing and conversing about Africa and developing a nation state, please contact the BAIO, a geopolitical social network where intellectuals get down using their third eye, seriously dialoguing or engaging in a dialogue about taking back what was stolen, figuratively and literally. One love.